Sehr geehrte Damen und Herren, ladies and gentlemen, welcome, ahlan wa sahlan to our today's webinar on the future of Iraq. Due to the fact that we have such a large audience today watching, reaching from the shores of the Danube in Austria to the Euphrates and Tigris in Iraq, and not everyone among us speaks German, we decided to conduct the entire webinar in English today. My name is Herwig Neuper. I'm the Austrian Commercial Counselor, or in German, WKO Wirtschaftsdelegierter, responsible for Iraq. Yeah, Iraq is a country that for decades has been and still is the focus of international news coverage, almost on a daily basis, for a variety of reasons, mostly for rather negative ones. But today, we want to show you a different glimpse into Iraq. In a top-class panel with interesting speakers who are all business professionals themselves that are currently actively working in Iraq and have a deeper understanding and knowledge about how to do business in Iraq really works, we want to give you some first-hand information about their experiences, their ongoing projects, and what's happening in the country right now. As well, we want to discuss about the economic future, potentials and business opportunities, especially for Austrian companies in various sectors and fields. It's a great honor for me that the Iraqi ambassador to Austria is joining us today in our webinar, His Excellency Bakr Fatah Hussein. I would kindly ask you, Your Excellency, for your opening remarks.
Thank you so much. Guten Abend, allseits. As'adallahu مساءكم جميعا. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. Today, before some while, I was attending online panel discussions about the business location Austria organized by Department for Business Service at the Ministry for European and International Affairs. It was very informative. It was very informative even besides providing useful background information. The event offers unique networking opportunity. Really, it is a great pleasure to me meet you with you in this virtual meeting that's taking place in cooperation with the Austrian Economy Chambers. And I would like to take this opportunity to express my appreciation for their continuous assistance, especially the WKO staff, and to extend my gratitude for all companies and representatives attending today this meeting. And we look forward to meet you and all in person once this pandemic is over soon. I hope it will be very soon. Ladies and gentlemen, first of all, please allow me to shed some light on the recent, very important and historic visit of His Holiness Pope to Iraq that had a great reflex on many aspects and at all levels through Iraq. This visit has not only opened a peaceful religious dialogue within different phases, which is considered highly important, but it also has very valuable impact on the broad image of Iraq to the international community, an image that must be seen that Iraq has many opportunities for investment. It is true that we are facing challenges, but there's a lot of opportunities and multi-level business vacancies for one fact that Iraq is perhaps can be considered as a country that is fertile land for business and investments. In this context, we can certainly say that His Holiness Pope visit opened the new door to Iraq for investment as well as tourism, especially the religious tourism. Ladies and gentlemen, As you may know, Iraq is currently stepping through rebuilding its different parts to overcome the past 2 decades. As Mr. Herwing said, that we are for decades suffering, but I see that the recovery will be soon. For 2 decades of destructions and wars that had a major negative influence to the population as well as the institutions. Therefore, Iraqi government has launched an ambitious plan to reprioritize its economy toward opening the markets to the international investments and gradual privatization of some institutions to generate more work opportunities, and most importantly, to shift the workforce load from the public sector to the private sector. The government has also laid down the plans to improve the monetary and bank system and to create the foundation to transform the cash-based economy to a more digital system. All these steps will help investors to adjust comfortably and to enter the Iraqi market more easily. Ladies and gentlemen, you can find all opportunities announced for local and international investors, companies on the National Investments Organization in Iraq officials homepage regarding the oil and industry and all other different sectors. I'd like to reiterate that the Embassy of the Republic of Iraq will be at your disposal to facilitate all necessary requirements in order to enter the Iraqi markets and will respond to any requests that you may need. Stay safe and wish you all success. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency. We really appreciate it that you took the time to be with us. I hope you can stay during the full webinar and watch the presentations of the speakers as well. A big thank you to you and your entire team for your continuous support, not only for my office, but especially for the Austrian companies who are active in Iraq, who have an interest in Iraq. Best regards to Vienna, stay healthy, and I hope to see you very soon in person back in Vienna.
Thank you so much.
So now I would like to move on and highlight a few facts about Iraq and especially some bilateral economic links with Austria. Like many other countries in the Middle East, the COVID-19 pandemic hit Iraq hard, and the country is still struggling with it and confronted with rising infection numbers in the past few weeks. Iraq bought 70.5 million doses of vaccine so far, an amount that covers around 20% of the Iraqi population. Regarding a potential mass vaccination, it is expected that Iraq will belong to those countries lagging behind with a significant proportion of population not vaccinated until the second half of 2022. 2020 was definitely a rough year for the Iraqi economy. The very low oil price and the reduction in oil production required by OPEC Plus led to a decline of the GDP of more than 11% in Iraq in 2020. Iraq's economy is heavily dependent on its hydrocarbons industry. The country has the world's third largest proven oil reserves, but industry, especially the gas and the electricity sector, remain underdeveloped. Oil and gas contribute 98% to Iraq's exports. The good news for Iraq is that the oil price is already getting stronger again, and it is predicted that the economy will return to low growth still during 2021 as impact of the recovering oil export revenues. For the next 3 years to come, the GDP growth rates from 1 to 4% are forecast. In late 2020, a government white paper laid out the stark realities of Iraq's fiscal and economic problems. However, its blueprint for recovery for 2021 to 2023 is by many considered as very ambitious, and its tough proposals are maybe unlikely to gain support in an election year. Nevertheless, it is to be hoped that the government will be able to push through with the proposed reforms, and the call for economy diversification is urgently needed. The trade balance between Austria and Iraq has always been strongly on Iraq's side. Iraq has been an important source of oil and gas for Austria in recent years. In 2019, Austria imported oil and gas worth more than €500 million. Last year, the imports declined to an amount of 216.5 million euros. Austrian exports to Iraq in the last few decades were very often subject to very large fluctuations, and this has also been the case in recent years. In 2019, Austria exported goods worth 70.8 million euros. In the last year, we saw a decline of 15% to 61.8 million euros. One reason for the relatively moderate export figures was certainly that many construction and infrastructure projects in recent years, where Austrian companies normally play an important role in supplying and in planning and engineering, were in Iraq on hold or got postponed. We hope that this is going to change soon when more and more projects get realized again. What developed very well lately were the export of certain consumer goods, such as Austrian cheese, a certain well-known energy drink brand, as well as the export of Austrian pharmaceuticals and medical devices, such as hearing implants. Even during the pandemic last year, more and more new products from Austria found their way to the Iraqi market. And a certain Vienna iced coffee is currently enjoying great popularity all over the country. And perhaps a little unexpected, marketing through social media influencers has found its way into Iraq, just as it did in Europe or the US. Who would have thought? Something what you might not expect in Iraq either. You can see in the last picture of this slide, a cable car system made in Austria. This picture was actually taken only yesterday in Duhok in Kurdistan, where right now, as we speak, a team of technicians from Austria is currently putting the lift system into operation. In case you wonder if there is a demand, also for your product, your services or solution on the Iraqi market, you're interested in a certain tender, look for an agent, or want us to screen a potential business partner, let me and my team know, and we will try to do the research for you. At this point, I was actually planning to introduce you Mrs. Nazanin Mohammed, the Iraqi Minister for Construction and Housing, to give a keynote presentation on upcoming investment opportunities in the infrastructure sector in Iraq. And we tried very, very hard to have the minister as a speaker with us, and she had also confirmed. But sadly, she had to cancel last minute because of an urgent cabinet meeting of the government. I hope you're not too disappointed about that, and the minister conveys her best regards, and she sincerely hopes to be available at another occasion in the future. Nevertheless, we still have three other excellent speakers with us today. I have the pleasure to briefly introduce you these three fine gentlemen. Ravaz Ibrahim, CEO of Green Eastland, based in Erbil, where he's just recently opened the biggest food distribution center in the whole Iraq. Ravaz is a proud Kurd, as well as a real Vienna Strizi, as we say in Austria, since he was born and raised in Vienna and returned back to Kurdistan a few years ago to realize the project he will tell you about shortly. Then Rami Kavar, Managing Director of Mondi Caso Iraq, based in Suleimania. Mondi Caso is Austria's currently most important investment in Iraq. I'm very excited to hear his insights as well. Last but not least, Musab Al-Khatib, Managing Director of Siemens Energy Iraq. Mr. Al-Khatib has extensive experience as an advisor to the government of Iraq, as manager of a senior public sector technical assistance program, and more recently, a senior manager of multinational companies. Dear Ravas, please tell us a little bit more about yourself and your impressive project. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Herwig. Sehr geehrte Damen und Herren, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Ravas Ibrahim. I was born and raised in Vienna, Austria, and moved to Erbil after studying petroleum engineering at the Mining University of Lyon. During my studies, I have attended many internships in the Kurdistan region of Iraq, where I soon realized that basic foundations in society are missing. One essential part is the entire agricultural sector, which I see as one of the foundations of any country. That was the reason why I joined Sina Group, where we tried to build those stepping stones with the help of knowledge and technology. So let me give you a brief introduction what one of our companies, Green Eastland, is doing. Traces of agriculture can be dated back to 9,500 BC in the Levant area. Most of modern technologies were influenced by what the Mesopotamians invented between 7,000 to 10,000 years ago. The race for black gold and its high profits helped the country's development. Businessmen became lazy and went after fast and big profits. With the fall of the crude oil's price, the motivation for sustainable investments has also immensely dropped. It would be beneficial if the government would lend more support to the private sector by simply strengthening and building small companies to enterprises. This will contribute to building a sustainable and safe country. We as Green Eastland have made it our duty to help the government restore one of the vital sectors of this country. The agricultural sector is responsible for maintaining peace and security. So with the government strategies and our determination, we started the process of creating a new hub for future generations. We received the land and the license from the Kurdistan Regional Government's Ministry of Investment and immediately started laying the first brick in 2009. Now we can proudly say that we have created the biggest agricultural project of Iraq, a modern and fruitful area that will serve as the backbone of the region's rural sector. This project spans over 50 hectares with over 380 individual owned shops, 78 cold storages, which by the end of the year will reach almost 200, as well as 2 large warehouses, one of which is the main and only distribution point for the biggest supermarket chain of Iraq, Markt. With the completion of this part of the project, in which we created a modern space and infrastructure for work and trade in the agricultural sector, we have now taken the step which is growing local produce. With the help of high-tech greenhouses, we are able to grow up to 10 times more products, which cost significantly lower than conventional farming. We have started the construction on a Dutch glass greenhouse of 1 hectare, which due to the current COVID-19 pandemic was put on hold. Another 75 hectares are being prepared for greenhouses next to the Erbil Food Distribution Center, which are only the first steps of our horticulture project. With a plan to build and introduce greenhouses region-wide, we will need a lot of workforce. With an estimated 5,000 job opportunities at the EFDC alone, we estimate that the 75 hectares of phase 1 will create at least 3,000 more. The World Horti Center is a unique structure where education, research and development, and business of horticulture meet. We have obtained the exclusivity rights for the entire Middle East with the seat in. The WHC Erbil will offer the same possibilities as their sibling in the Netherlands does, with the only exception that we will also host everything from vocational training up to doctorate degrees. This way, we will ensure that the workforce for this sector will be trimmed and ready to tackle on the essential part of our homeland. We at Green Eastland see ourselves as a service company that provides a platform and thousands of opportunities on which great, clean, and sustainable businesses can be created. We want to be able to offer a smart overview of how the market is trending. This can be done by collecting this sector's data, which we are currently in the process of doing, and we have also created our own public data center. By gathering and analyzing this data, we can create various strategies, forecasts, and even minimize waste by using business intelligence. We are in a unique position in this sector, since we have created a space where everything from the seed to the fork can and will find its place. A choke point many still not considered to be of importance. Due to the crude oil's decreased price, the KRG has set new strategies to produce income, one of which is the agricultural sector. Unfortunately, this sector has been overlooked for too long. This created disinterest with the private sector and kept the farmers in the lowest and poorest social class. There's a lot to be done in order for the sector to jumpstart. With the KRG setting the strategy, the private sector can create many different business solutions to help with that matter. The lacking bank system and the lack of international banks make it really difficult to handle larger sums, have safe and fast international transfers, and most importantly, loans. The chances for small and medium businesses to make it into enterprises without proper financial help are very slim. Due to the lack of banks and the high level of risk to travel to this country, it has also become difficult to attract foreign investors. So this is only a small, brief overview about us and to give you a taste of what is about to come in part 2 when I tell you more about the environment, the business environment of Kurdistan in Iraq. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ravas. We will see you back in a few minutes for a second round. Now I would like to turn the microphone to Rami Kawar to hear about the activities of Mondi in Iraq. Rami, the floor is yours. Please come on stage with us.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to our webinar. My name is Rami Kawar, and I am the Managing Director of Mondi Castro Iraq. I am originally Jordanian, and I've been in Iraq since 2014 in the Suleimaniye city in Kurdistan. Just a brief about our company. Mondi Castro Iraq is a subsidiary of Mondi Austria. We have been operational in Iraq since 2012. We are the largest paper bag producer in Iraq, serving the cement and building materials industries. We are located in Kurdistan region, north of Iraq, Suleimaniye city. We have state-of-the-art paper bag lines. We deliver high-quality bags to all cement plants in Iraq. Our employees are 63% local employees, and we have 5 different nationalities. Our vision is to serve other building materials and the food industries. At Mondi, we have a 24 hours safety mindset where we believe in working safely and going back home safe as well, everybody, every day. Mondi Iraq has been the winner of the 2018 Mondi Diamond Award. It's an award across all Mondi operations worldwide, and we were the winners of the Operational Excellence category. Mondi is a global leader in packaging and paper. Mondi has 26,000 employees worldwide. We have more than 100,000 solutions for our customers. We have group offices in Johannesburg, London, and Vienna. We have over 100 operations in more than 30 countries, and we run 2.4 million hectares of managed forests. Mondi has premium listing on the London Stock Exchange and secondary listing on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange. Mondi is the #1 craft paper producer globally, the #1 paper bag producer in Europe and a global leader, and the #3 consumer flexible packaging producer in Europe. Mondi's purpose is to make products that are sustainable by design. And since sustainability is the heart of our strategy, the Mondi Action Plan 2030 was set to define our actions towards meeting our 2030 sustainability goals, where we believe that by focusing on circular-driven solutions, of course, keeping materials in circulation and preventing waste, created by empowered people taking action on the climate, we will have the most positive impact. There's a nice video, you can watch it sometime later on YouTube about the Mondi Action Plan 2030, but due to time constraints, we will just skip the video now. And this is the first part of my presentation. Hope to get back to you in the second part, please. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rami. We will also hear back from you again shortly.
Thank you. Thank you.
And as we all know, you cannot talk about the future of Iraq without including the topic energy. So I think we couldn't have found a more competent speaker than Musab Al-Khadib, who has been active in this industry in Iraq for more than 20 years. I'm very excited to hear your insight, Musab, and the planned energy roadmap for Iraq. Please, Musab, go ahead with your presentation.
Thank you, Havik. It's great to be with you all, and it's terrific to have this opportunity to speak to the business community in Austria. I'm happy to talk to you about or encourage you to come to Iraq to invest in Iraq, because it is, in spite of what you hear on the news, it is a country that is ripe for investment. And I would like to give you my perspective on it today. I think before we begin with the energy story, for all of those who are interested in visiting Iraq, the Iraqi government released new visa rules just a couple of days ago, making it easy for business people to get a visa upon arrival in Iraq for the cost of $75 at any airport in Iraq, which is really quite. It's streamlined the visa process quite considerably, and it is a one-month visa. I can tell you that for the hundreds of people that of my Siemens colleagues that visit Iraq, this is hugely important. Anyway, let us get into. So this is the title slide. You can see it, that we have essentially in the background, you can see the energy infrastructure that Siemens Energy manages. And just a little bit of background about Siemens Energy. Siemens Energy is now a pure play energy company. We separated, or we carved out of Siemens AG, which is the mother company, and that has a very long history, 174-year history, I think. And believe it or not, Siemens AG still has a massive presence in Austria. I believe it's the second largest presence in Europe outside Germany. So Austria is hugely important for Siemens AG and its sister company Siemens Energy. So what we've been operating in Iraq for about 80 years, and I'm not going to tell you the entire story. Don't worry. We're just going to focus on the kind of sectors that we deal with in Iraq. We're primarily interested in energy projects, meaning electricity and oil and gas. They're basically two sides of the same coin, if you like. You can't have electricity without fuel, and vice versa. Iraq relies on, as Havik already stated, on the oil industry, and so you need electricity to pump the oil out of the ground. Siemens Energy, it supplies a considerable part of the globe with energy, and the requirements, going forward, especially with electrification of cars and infrastructure, that demand for electricity is going to increase, and Siemens Energy is there to try to fill in that gap and work with a number of partners, including, as I understand, there are many of the people or the companies in attendance are in the construction sector, and we as Siemens Energy cannot do our job without the help of construction companies, EPCs, and other partners. So we encourage you to approach Siemens Energy, to bid on Siemens Energy EPC projects in Iraq and elsewhere. Now, the demand in Iraq, of course, is huge because of the country's specific history, and so any kind of war-torn nation is going to need to be rebuilt, and part of that is the energy infrastructure. I won't go too much into that because I have a few more slides to go into. I mean, the goals of Siemens Energy obviously is to go to a carbon neutral, and therefore we are exploring and exploiting new opportunities and developing technology for hydrogen and improving our carbon footprint around the world and reducing it to a sustainable level while producing reliable electricity and reliable energy that the world has come to expect from Siemens. The Iraq roadmap is basically our strategy for Iraq to supply 24/7 electricity anywhere in Iraq, and our promise to the government has been to provide 11 gigawatts of power, and while providing jobs and opportunities for Iraqis. Now, the Iraq roadmap is simply an integrated strategy for Iraq's energy needs, and that includes whether it's production of electricity in terms of power generation, transmission, and distribution. Now, on the distribution end, we work with our friends and colleagues at Siemens AG, and while Siemens Energy handles the power generation and transmission portions. We did set up a clinic in northern Iraq in the city of Beji, which was devastated by the ISIS attack back in 2014. We're quite proud of that clinic, and it has already started serving far more people than we originally intended, and it does have Siemens Healthineers equipment in it. And that's it, really. I hope I haven't gone too long. I'm happy to entertain any questions. Really, my role here is to help you, encourage you to come to Iraq, and I'm happy to answer any questions during the webinar or afterwards. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you this afternoon.
Thank you so much, Musa. That was really, truly very, very interesting. And I'm sure, and I see already a few questions for you coming up, but we will get back to them a little bit later. Now, I would like to get back to Ravas, and I kindly ask Ravas to tell us a little bit more about the business environment, specifically in the Kurdistan region, and where he sees potentials and opportunities for Austrian companies. Ravas, please join in again.
Servus again. I will try to give an idea about the business climate and the opportunities here in the Kurdistan region of Iraq. As a Kurd born and raised in Austria, I believe that I have a unique perspective on how to and if you should start a business in this area. And I will try to share my thoughts on that with you in the next 5 minutes. On a side note, we just have surpassed the $120 million mark, $120 million in investing in our project. So of course I'm going to say, yes, this is the place to be. The points I want to try to cover today are security, mentality, and opportunity. Security is and will for some time still be the first thought every entrepreneur will tackle. Is it safe? Will I be safe? Will there be another war? How stable is the region? When thinking of Iraq, images of war and conflict probably pop up into your mind. Yet Iraq is quite stable and full of opportunities. Mainly for one reason: a strong private sector creates a stability, and this goes alongside the great business opportunities that still exist here. Of course, the international interest in the oil reservoirs here gave this country a great push in creating stability and opportunities to reshape this region. But most importantly, it's the people's will that drives the economy to a greater stage. The Kurdistan region enjoys a more stable and safer environment to do business for any nationality. Travel to and from Erbil or Suleimania are, due to their international airports, easy and safe. Pre-COVID, Austrian Airlines was flying to Erbil 6 days out of a week. I personally have never felt unsafe since I moved here 4 years ago. The next point I believe many will think of or have thought of would be the mentality of the market and that of the people. I'm sorry I always take Kurdistan as an example, but I have yet not had the opportunity to gather experience anywhere else in Iraq. The Kurds are a very open and a welcoming group that never shy away from foreigners, but they have become a bit lazy, speaking from a business perspective, of course, due to their enormously high availability of capital that they were able to make very easily before ISIS popped this economic bubble. So most people are used to high and short-term returns in investment. So let me paint you a picture with an example. Rather than growing an apple tree to benefit every year from its harvest, a trader wants to have an apple right now. And he's even willing to pay more to have that product right now rather than 1 month later. So until now, most of the foreign companies have taken this approach. But this is where the rare opportunity to invest and establish a long-term and sustainable business lies. With almost no competitor in the market having a long-term strategy, companies like you can easily find their new foundation here. Yet I always advise you to take a local partner, mostly because of all the legal work and bureaucracy one has to undergo, and will take ages if you do not know your way around this framework. There are many benefits in doing business here in the KRI. For manufacturing, the Ministry of Investments will give you free land, which will be transferred into ownership once the project is set. New companies from a 10-year benefit. I'm sorry about that. New companies benefit from a 10-year exemption, and I have heard that this will be pushed to 15 years soon. Labor, electricity, raw materials, etc., are all comparably cheap. And there are a lot of young new talents waiting for exciting opportunities. We're talking here of a market that is very strong in import and has almost no export aside from oil. Doppelmayr, Maresi, Red Bull, Rauch are only a few Austrian success stories in this region. Where I personally see a great opportunity, also because it's linked to my field of work, is producing and then exporting to the Middle East. Production has become somewhat expensive, especially due to the long-lasting low prices of crude oil. This forced the Middle East to become more expensive, still cheaper than Europe, but not as cheap as they used to be. And this is where Kurdistan and Iraq will be able to pioneer a new chapter of manufacturing and production with your help. So now, after telling you a bit about the security, the mentality, and opportunities in the KRI, I would like to end my presentation and share some questions with you as a parting gift. How is Kurdistan still standing after being surrounded by enemies for centuries? How is Kurdistan's development curve still climbing? How was ISIS able to enter most of Iraq and yet Kurdistan held their ground and also played key roles in defeating this foe? How have the COVID-19 numbers stayed so low and the hospitals so empty, despite the lack of proper healthcare? Why does this region keep attracting foreign companies and investors? Why are the United States of America investing over $780 million in a consulate here in Erbil? It is the biggest foreign investment after the $300 million used to rebuild their building in Benghazi. Why is the Republic of China so invested in and is competing against the US in terms of business involvement? We're talking of an area that was able to establish its own borders, its own government, its own peace, all that without being recognized by the international community. Even Palestine has a seat in the United Nations. Someone wants this place to blossom and does not allow anything or anyone come its way. Who? I don't know. Maybe God, maybe it's the United States, or maybe it's a mix of security, mentality, and opportunities. Please feel free to send me an email to the address shown on the slide, contact Hervik or the WKO. I'll be more than happy to help a fellow Hadara. Thank you very much, and click off.
Thank you so much, Ravas. That was really super interesting, and I'm pretty sure you're gonna receive many questions either now or per email very soon.
Thank you.
Last, I would like to give again the floor to Rami to hear from him his views about a potential future for Iraq, investment opportunities, and maybe you could also tell the Austrian audience a few tips and tricks when doing business in Iraq.
Thank you, Ervik. Okay, investing in Iraq is something that is always very attractive. Iraq has the second oil reserves in the world, making its economy a lucrative opportunity for investors. Iraq economy, of course, second half of last year shrank by about 11-12% due to drop in oil prices and the COVID restrictions. The economy is expected to return to growth as the energy sector recovers at an estimated rate of 4% in 2021 and about 4.7% in 2022. Large scales in scale projects in Iraq are mainly in the reconstruction and rehabilitation projects. Around 3 million housing units are required over the 10 years, the coming 10 years, and the Mosul reconstruction project expected to continue through 2028. We know of these information because of our involvement with the cement industry and with the building material industry, and we can see that the growth is coming to Iraq. Iraq is undergoing, of course, a massive reconstruction boom, and the growth is coming mainly in the crude oil production, in the refinery capacities, in the cement industry, all infrastructure projects, of course, public services, and the banking services. Banking services is something that really needs to grow in Iraq. Some small tips and tricks when investing in Iraq. Of course, you can always make use and benefit of the investment promotion regulations issued by the National Investment Commission in the federal government of Iraq, and of course, the Board of Investment in the Kurdistan regional government. There are a lot of investment promotion regulations and laws that we can all benefit from. When doing business in Iraq, you need always to consult with a reputable legal firm for a reliable and effective advice and assistance. As Bravos was saying, the regulations are changing and the country is developing fast. So things are changing and you need to have a legal advisor near you to help you with the investment and with whatever project you're going to set up. And on the dons, you of course you need to not ignore the nearby local communities, because that is where you will need their help when you establish your project I'm talking mainly now in the Kurdish region, because I've been there since 2014. And you, of course, need to not miss out on developing and training local talents. As I said earlier, we have 63% local employees in our company, and we have found it really helpful to invest in the local talents and develop their abilities and training, and they have been really successful in proving that they can do the work. So this is mainly what I have to say. We're open for questions, of course, during the webinar or even later than that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ram. That was really a great insight as well, and for sure very valuable information for our participants. Ladies and gentlemen, I may thank all speakers for the great contributions. We are done with the actual presentations now, and one look at the clock tells me that we still have time for a few questions that came up from the audience, and I have 2 questions for Musa. If you could get back with microphone and camera. Diversification is needed. I guess we all agree on that. But realistically, when do you think that hydrocarbons will start to play a minor role in Iraq's economy? Are we talking here about a few years or rather decades? And what will be the role of the green energy in Iraq in the future?
Well, the reality is that so long as there's demand for oil, then Iraq will continue to produce it. It is, as the earlier speakers had on your slides as well, the country's economy is largely dependent on hydrocarbons. The shift, the economic diversification is already taking place because it has to. And I think the COVID-19 pandemic has been a wake-up call for Iraq's political class in order to diversify the economy, because, as everybody knows, the price of oil went down quite considerably, and which has had an impact on the country, and a negative impact on the country's economic growth. Now, what are the long-term prospects? The long-term prospects are very good. I think Iraq is probably one of the best countries in the world for solar power, for renewable energy. It's not so good for wind, it has to be said. But I know that the government has a goal of establishing 10 gigawatts of power from solar energy alone, which, if you, depending on how you calculate the existing production capability of the country in terms of electricity, you're looking at 50% or upwards of 50% in solar power alone. So that journey has just begun, and I think as the person who asked that question suggested or implied, it would likely take decades, maybe two, perhaps longer. But the important thing is that the journey has begun. The first steps are underway, and Iraqis of all kinds are beginning to realize that they simply cannot rely on oil for economic growth.
Thank you, Musab. I have one follow-up question. I mentioned before the white book of the government, and many consider it as very ambitious. Some call it even completely unrealistic. Do you agree on that, or what is your point of view?
Well, I'm a little bit biased because I know the author of the white paper, so I happen to agree with him. Yes, it is ambitious, but I think it's if it were easy, it wouldn't be worth writing, frankly. I mean, Iraq needs ambitious goals, and the Iraqi political class needs it as well. The thing is, these goals are not unrealistic. I mean, other countries have achieved them. It depends on your yardstick at the end of the day. Iraq is coming from a lower level, if you like, of development because of its history for the last 40, 50 years. But I don't think the present and the future will be kind to Iraq's political class if these development goals are not taken seriously. And I think Iraq now has a government in place that is taking steps to actively and seriously pursue economic development goals that make sense to the rest of the world, and that are not associated with the oil curse, if you like. I mean, the oil curse came home to roost, if you like, during the pandemic, and it is, you cannot go back to the way things were done before. So these development goals are front and center. They are as realistic as they can be. Yes, they're ambitious, I agree, but ultimately Iraq has no choice. It must go down this path.
Thank you very much. I have one more question from the audience. One participant is telling us he has experience in the Basra region and is asking you, when do you expect that the frequent power interruptions will be considerably reduced?
That's a great question. Well, to be specific, Basra does not lack for power generation. What it's missing really is transmission infrastructure. And Siemens Energy is building 13 substations that begin from south of Baghdad in the Hilla region all the way down to Basra. So we're kind of stringing along these substations in order to strengthen the national grid and the transmission of electricity all the way down to Basra. So I would say stay tuned. Probably in about a year's time, when our project is finished, you will see considerable improvement in the availability of electricity in Basra.
Thank you so much, Musab. Maybe Rami could come back on stage for a second, since Mondi is producing bags for the cement industry. Could you maybe tell us a little bit, do you have an insight in the cement industry, and tell us a little bit about that, about the current situation of the cement industry in Iraq?
Yeah, we have seen actually growth in the cement investments. Actually, many cement plants are still expanding. They're just having more cement lines installed, and even some new plants came up in the last 2-3 years, and they were all doing great. Cement consumption is quite high in Iraq, and actually, if you look at most of the cement plants are fully booked in terms of capacities and sales, and there's still room for growth in the cement industry. And of course, this all translates into construction, rehabilitation projects, some major infrastructure projects that are happening in Iraq, whether the port in the south that is being expanded in south of Iraq, housing units, as we said, like some millions of units are still needed for Iraq. So yes, growth is coming, and the infrastructure projects are still growing, and there's a lot to do actually on this front.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm not sure which of the gentlemen has any information about the metro project in Baghdad. Maybe Musab or the other gentleman. This is some project that has been discussed about for many years. Does any one of you have some information about it, or think that this is still realistic?
Yeah, I have some information about it, mainly because it's going to require electricity, and a lot of it, to run that metro. It is basically, the project has been awarded, but what's really left to be done is an allocation in the federal budget of Iraq in order to activate the project. For those of you who don't know, Iraq relies on export credit agencies from Germany, from other European countries, in order to facilitate financing for large infrastructure projects. Large infrastructure projects require the involvement of international banks, and the export credit agency guarantee from, say, let's just take an example, the German export credit agency, Euler Hermes, they would provide a financial guarantee to the banks that will lower the interest rate for the Iraqi government to borrow in order to activate these projects in the country. The Baghdad Metro is such an example. I believe the company that has won that project is Alstom out of France, and therefore the French export credit agency is involved. International banks are involved, and hence the way it works is that you would have the export credit agency guarantee along with international banks financing those projects, and the government of Iraq giving its own guarantee to repay the loans that it takes to finance projects of this size. So I just wanted to make sure that this was understood, that export credit agencies play a big role, especially for the construction companies that are on this call. I think this would help them to really appreciate a way to financially structure the kinds of deals they could win in Iraq specifically.
Thank you so much. There is one last question for you. very specific one. It seems that the one gentleman has had experience in the past, but I dare to raise it to you. Mr. Al-Khatib, do you agree to the statement that any foreign company needs a lot of patience when handling letter of credits issuing with the TBI?
I wish we could have some emojis on this call, but if there were one, I would do this.
Okay.
I agree entirely with the mysterious individual. Yes, we've had our own troubles with the Trade Bank of Iraq and the issuance of letters of credit. Yes, I mean, essentially the financial sector is in need of development, as my fellow panelists have already said. And but things are improving. The Trade Bank of Iraq has received, or the government has hired a new chairman just a few months ago. He's quite a capable guy, and is basically working day and night to try to reform the organization itself. In addition, there have been a number of developments in the financial sector that are quite encouraging for small, medium, and even large businesses, because there are now a handful of private banks that are quite serious operators that have started working in Iraq. In addition, the Central Bank of Iraq is now, along with the, I think with the bank, don't quote me on this, but with the bank, I think it's the Bankers Association, they've come up with a way of guaranteeing deposits, and this will encourage Iraqis to put their money in banks. Now, why is that important for companies doing business in Iraq? Well, it's going to strengthen the banks. That's good for all of us. So I think the future is bright. Yes, Iraq is behind in its financial sector development, but there are some really positive and encouraging developments in the last couple of years.
Thank you so much. It's really, really interesting and very good to know. We have time for a very last question, this time for Rabas. Since you're also related more or less in agricultural projects, one participant is asking, when can we expect new tenders for agricultural projects again in the Kurdistan region as well as in the whole of Iraq? Do you have any information on that?
It's not specific, no specific information, to be honest. For Iraq, I have almost no information except what they need, and they need everything. When we talk about Kurdistan and tenders, I would directly contact the Ministry of Agriculture. They're very capable in telling you what they need, which is most of the time a lot of things. So anything that comes into the very basic need of technology. So we're very behind when it comes to how people are farming here. It's disastrous. A farmer starts growing and they throw the seeds into the soil and they hope for rain and for some water, which we have. We have enough rain, we have very, very good soil, and we have a lot of sunlight, but people are not using the science behind it, or they lack in knowledge how to be more efficient. And I think anywhere where someone comes from that direction, the Dutch are doing a very, very good job. They're already producing a lot of potatoes for the chips company Lay's. So they're producing everything in Soleimani and sending it to, I believe it's Jordan, where they have the factory to produce Lay's. And since they're so powerful now, they're thinking about opening a plant here. So whatever you see as an opportunity, just contact the ministry and see in which way you can start, what kind of tenders they have, or even better, just come and take a picture for yourself. Come see this land, see the opportunities.
Great, thank you so much. We have reached the time limit. If you have raised a question that was not answered yet, and there were quite a few, some are very detailed ones, we will certainly take care of them and forward them to the respective speakers, or try to answer them ourselves. One more time, thank you very much to everyone for joining. It was a pleasure. One brief event announcement I would like to make. We are now planning an economic mission to Iraq from September 28th to 13th. If you're interested or if you have any other questions related to Iraq, please contact us at the address below. Thanks again. Goodbye. Stay healthy and please take care of yourself. Thank you very much.